Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. I'm Kyle Bryant. And I'm Sean Bombsark. Together, we are constantly seeking opportunities to live beyond our circumstances. All right, welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This is Sean, and you are listening to episode... Gosh, I don't even know what number this is, Kyle. Where are we at?
56, dude.
56A.
56A.
That part I remember. So, for those of you who follow along in our journey on social media or whatever it may be, you know that Kyle and I were able to spend some time in Australia not too long ago. And so this recording really centers around one of our sessions in Australia. We're going to play for you some of our live recording, but we split it up in two parts. So 056A is going to be a little bit of Kyle and I's story in terms of diagnosis and how we met and how we've created what we've created thus far. So some of you may already be familiar with that. But there are some jokes and just different little stuff to help people that maybe are new to the podcast or new to Kyle and Sean that kind of helps lay the foundation. 056B gets into some of the Q&A with some of the scientists and researchers that were in Australia with us, some questions and their responses that we got to record in that session. Does that make sense, Kyle? Does that nail it?
Yeah, and I think I'd just add one thing to it. I think everyone realizes it was a live recording. We did have some visuals behind us that the whole audience could see. So you may have to imagine some things at some point. In the beginning, we make fun of this sports team that's really popular in Melbourne. And so you might not quite understand it, but just play along. It's good stuff.
Yeah. You'll hear the crowd laugh. So it's kind of like a sitcom. You just laugh when they laugh, and it's all
there you go. That's your cue. Hey, so the past few weeks, getting back from Australia, everyone asked, "Oh, how was it?" And my response has been, it was really, really awesome. Australia is very similar to the United States, except everyone is way nicer.
Over there.
In Australia, yeah.
Way nicer. Yes.
So in my example is that like every conversation starts with a joke over there. I felt like. And here in the U.S., I feel like sometimes a lot of conversations start with, "Oh my gosh, guess what happened to me today? My life sucks."
Yeah, or "I'm so tired." Like,
yeah,
that's a good point. People always ask, "How you doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm just so busy." Like, it is a bit of a negative connotation in most of our American conversations. Since you bring up service, I'll tell you about an experience I had one day, or one that was toward the end, so you had already left. I had stayed in Melbourne an extra couple days, but I was in a downtown little mini mart, grocery store, sort of, and my hands were getting full. I was just grabbing things to snack on, eat and drink in the hotel room, and I kept walking by the front of the aisles. There was only 4 or 5 aisles, but the little third-party security guard that was there to guard the front door brought me a handbasket and was like, "Oh, would you like one of these?" He wasn't even an employee of the grocery store. He was a hired security guard.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, that would never happen in the States.
Right. Like, not my job.
Yeah,
no way
right.
I'm doing that.
You'd be lucky to get an employee of the establishment to help you, much less a third-party employee.
Just somebody being nice. It's not his job, no, but hey.
They're just being human.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
That's cool.
One thing I noticed about Australia, too, and kind of, I think you may have been in the car or around one of the conversations, but some of our Australian friends kind of make fun of themselves for being lazy in their speech. Australia or Australians are pretty well known for abbreviating their speech or cutting words down.
Right.
For example, McDonald's is actually branded in some cases as Macca's.
Macca's.
People call it Macca's, and
because no one wants to say McDonald's.
Yeah, that's too much.
Way
that's
too
many
long.
words. Breakfast is brekkie.
Oh yeah,
Let's
brekkie.
go get some brekkie.
That's a popular one.
If you want to go have a cup of tea, you just say cuppa. Everybody knows what you mean by cuppa. That means go get a cup of tea.
You gotta save as many syllables as you can.
Yeah, life is exhausting and it takes a lot of energy, so you just cut some out. And there was another one that was coming to mind, but I can't remember right now. Do you remember any? I found out
journalist.
that journalist is commonly referred to as a journo.
Journo.
Yeah. So some of these, of course, they say the word, and I kind of put two and two together, and I figure it out. But every now and then, they'd look at me, or one of our host friends, are like, "Oh, we mean journalist," or whatever. They'd break it down for me in Australian terms. But I got to make fun of one of our best hosts there, Katie. She was really the one behind all the efforts over there. She's the executive director of the Australian Fair. But I noticed one day driving around with her, she referred to the gas station and putting gas in her car as petrol or petroleum. And that struck me as odd because whether you say petrol or petroleum, that's a lot more effort than gas.
Yeah, come on.
And so, I wish I would have made fun of her in the moment, but I didn't think about it until later. But that was one thing where I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Just it's gas.
Say gas.
Yeah. So that's the one area where maybe the American English is a little bit easier in those terms, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So, Sean, one of the things that people would say all the time that is just slightly off from what we say, but is, what's kind of weird was, hey, how you going?
Yes, what? How you going?
What are you? Good, I guess. How are you?
For us, we either say, how you doing, or how's it going?
Or what's up?
They sort of combine those two.
Oh, yeah.
How ya going? Like, I'm not going anywhere. What do you mean, how am I going? I'm walking
going
there.
Fine, I guess. Yeah, so that one threw me off all the time. Because it was like all the time.
Yeah, everybody, no matter whether you know them or passing them on the street, is how you going. And I just heard this phrase on an Australian-based television show the other day. So I know it's legit. I know that's common language over there. But it doesn't seem to make sense in my brain because it should be, how's it going or how you doing?
Right, exactly.
So I'm pretty sure that anytime I answered that question, my answer probably didn't make sense in Australian English terms.
But the cool thing was everyone kind of could communicate it and knew what was up. Like, it was just those little things that threw us off.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, just an amazing trip, a phenomenal time connecting with new friends and old friends, and just being able to hang out with the Australian FA community and friends and family that are connected. It was such a wonderful time.
I agree. So without further ado, we are going to play our live podcast that we recorded at the 13th Annual FA Symposium in Melbourne. And here we go. I can't tell you how happy we are to be here with all of you guys. And as Ron pointed out, we see all of the activity that is going on in Australia, and everyone around the world sees that activity. And that really drives everybody to move even faster on our treatment and a cure. So we're really lucky and happy to be here. We flew in straight into Brisbane last week, and we attended Ferret in the Stars. And Sammy and where is he? Richard put on Ferret in the Stars, and it was absolutely incredible. A fundraiser on a rooftop in downtown Brisbane. Like we're just going, what are we? How did we even get here? Right? Yeah, it was super awesome. Then we went up to the Sunshine Coast with the Dwyer family, and we went swimming. And we went to the Australia Zoo and learned all about Steve Irwin and saw his huge crocodiles. Then we flew down here, and we wanted to do a little bit of research about the local culture. And so, Sean, what did we find?
So a lot of things. I had the privilege of being here last year, and I've been super excited to come back. And I was incredibly disappointed that the first meal Kyle had here was kangaroo. And so I thought it would be important to apologize on his behalf.
It was so good. I'm sorry, it was. But I also have to point out that this morning, Sean ate a waffle. Our episode 53 came on a Monday, and it's all about nutrition, right? So this morning, Sean ate a waffle with bacon and ice cream.
There were some apples. There were apples on that dish.
Yeah, there were like pickled apples with cinnamon and sugar, I think.
There were apples. So anyway, while at breakfast, we also thought it would be a good idea to really get into this whole Aussie rules football. And so we started to do some research and look at all 18 teams that you guys have. And we thought it would be important to look at maybe how those teams ranked. And, who's who and what team is where. And we couldn't help but notice, of all 18 teams, we found this little graphic that highlighted the 18th
how many
team.
teams are? Oh, 18. Oh, okay.
So there is no number 19. You can't get worse than number 18.
So then we typed into Google, we said, best Aussie League football team in the world.
Best team in the world.
Best team in the world. And this is what popped up.
It just kept coming up. It was
So I don't know.
Now, we don't know. We don't follow football.
This is totally objective.
We thought you'd be able to relate.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our research for the cultural dynamics in Melbourne, and we just kind of wanted to. Sorry.
Shoot, this
let's
is embarrassing. Sorry.
We should move
Maybe
on.
not the right file.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on. So,
serious.
we are going to get into some questions for our amazing researchers. But Sean and I wanted to take the opportunity to tell our story and tell you a little bit about kind of how we got here, how we got involved with each other, and how we built our friendship and our passion for moving forward despite disability. And so, when I was diagnosed with the FA, I found out, just like all of you, right, that this disease was slowly going to take away all my abilities. And so my family and I want to point out, my parents are here with us. my mom Diana, and my dad Mike. So we sat at the kitchen table, just like pretty much everyone here, and you've all had this experience where you sit down at the table and go, what in the world are we going to do about this? Right? And it seems like there's nothing you can do. And so what we decided to do, what I decided to do, and I convinced them to come with me, and as most of you probably know a little bit about my story, we did a cross-country bike ride. This is just one photo of a 59-day trip across the U.S. Well, about 2/3 of the way across the U.S. 2,500 miles. We looked at it. That's about 4,000 kilometers, I think. What?
I don't remember now.
Anyway.
A lot.
It was far. So we did this bike ride, and the main takeaway from this bike ride, we wanted to solve the problem of us, the problems, the issues that FA was throwing at our lives, and so we want to do it for ourselves, right? But what we, excuse me, I'm having a Ron moment. But what we found out is that we were just a part of a huge community. I wrote a blog post about every 3 days during this trip for 2 months, and we found out all of these people commenting on the blog and telling us how.
That's another Ron moment.
And telling us how our actions were helping them in their lives. And I just think it was an amazing thing that we learned that our actions were empowering the entire community. I'm going to look at my notes here. And so that's what we found out, that we were a part of this community, and we were just trying to get ourselves through it. So
like a lot of you get diagnosed with FA, and maybe you chat with your clinicians, or over the last 10 years or so you got online, and I'm sure at some point before today you heard about Kyle Bryant. And that's exactly how I found Kyle Bryant. I was diagnosed, we lived in the same city, and the doctor told me about FA and sent me home with not a whole lot to work with. And so, like most of you, probably went to Google and started to do a little Google search of all things related to your Friedreich's ataxia, and that's probably the worst Google search you could do. Anyway, what kept popping up was this guy, and what he had just finished that bike ride with his dad and his mom to Memphis, being in the same city. He was all over our local news and newspaper and whatnot, so I kept finding his name, and true just millennial fashion, I hunted him down on email and Facebook, and I don't think Instagram existed yet, but anything that existed, and I reached out to him and I said, I'm your new best friend. And I explained.
And it was like, dude, what is this? Get away.
Told him who I am, and Kyle was gracious enough to meet me about a week later. I had just got diagnosed, and for me, there was that moment of what now? Like, what does this mean? But there was never a level of hesitation on my part. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from, but there was an acceptance of reality, but a complete rebellion to let that reality control my life or define who I am and what I can do. So I reached out to Kyle, and we met for a beer and a pizza, and I asked him about the ride, and I asked him, well, actually, I I asked him if beer made things worse. And he assured me that it wouldn't, so I kept drinking. So we met, and in the process of our conversation, I said, what are you doing, and what's next? How can I get involved? Because for me, there was no hesitation. There was no reason to wait. It was a matter of, like Jen said, we're on borrowed time, so let's get this ball rolling. So together we started planning Kyle's next big ride, and I was fortunate to join him on the journey. We planned a trip, what was known back then as Ride-A-Taxi 2. And we began to plan a bike ride from Sacramento, California to Las Vegas, Nevada, about 650 miles. And this picture is from one of those training sessions. And like I said, in my approach, it was, okay, this might be reality. What are we going to do to move forward in the process?
So that was the beginning of Ride-A-Taxi. As you can see, the first 2 rides, the first one to Memphis, the second one to Vegas, the third one from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. And then in 2009, I came on staff at the Free Joke Said Taxi Research Alliance, and we built a series of bike rides. Now we have 6 rides all around the U.S., and we raise about $1 million a year, and we have about 2,500 people that participate every year in these bike rides. And we are really happy and honored that we're gonna have the first. Wow, I didn't know I was going to get emotional at this point. The first Ride-A-Taxi Australia on Sunday. Woo! So. And so for me, this is absolutely amazing and so fulfilling to do all these rides for the community and with the community. I think it's amazing. Honestly, I don't raise that much money anymore, and I don't know if that's the point is, the community does it. It's all of us working together. There's no way that this family could raise $1 million a year, but this family can, right? And this family is going to get across the finish line. So anyway, I love doing that, and that's really what drives me. But also, one of the things that drives me is having something for myself, always something to strive for, to push myself a little farther. So, as you guys know, because many of you have seen the movie The Taxian, we put together a team for the Race Across America, and it's a 3,000-mile race, literally from ocean to ocean across the U.S., and so that was the thing that we did together. And, we really did it because we knew we wanted to do something bigger than ourselves for the community. And it was truly amazing. And not only was it a personal accomplishment, obviously, for each of us, but it was an accomplishment for the entire FA community. The thing that drove us were the comments from the community that we got. And so about a week before the race, I got an email from somebody I didn't know. Dear Kyle, I wanted to let you know that 1 month ago today, my 12-year-old daughter Natalie was diagnosed with FA. I look online and I can't find much hope. But every time I see your team, it gives me hope. Thank you for making this mother realize that it's not too late to find a cure for my sweet baby. And this was the picture that was attached to that email. And really, that's what drove us across the country, and that's the message that drives us every day. Sean, did you have something specific that?
For some of you that have, I don't know why you're laughing. I was like, did he put a picture up? For a lot of you have seen the movie, you met the Helms family. when you first meet them, that's the moment in the movie where we were a few months out from embarking on Ram, the main event. And in the movie, you hear their story. They're a beautiful young family. And their son was having some gait issues and some other heart concerns. And of course, they were diagnosed with FA. And later, their little girl was also diagnosed with FA. But as you see in the movie, and for those of you who haven't seen it yet, hopefully you're going downstairs with us soon. You can see it there. Their spirits are affected. They are taking life by the horns, and they still have their beautiful smiles like most FA patients have, and they have this grit for doing whatever they can to be a part of the community and be a part of the process to getting us to that finish line. And I love talking about the Helms because to this day, they're still involved and their kids are still happy and still finding ways to move beyond their challenging circumstance.
Love it. So we completed Ram, and we now have this amazing documentary, and so these are the filmmakers and the executive producer, Tom Hamilton there, and we're just constantly amazed by what this film has done. I think one of the things I've learned, and you guys all know here because I see all your posts and Instagram and videos and everything, nobody knows what you've done unless you talk about it, right? Unless you blog about it or make a movie or all that. So I think really this movie has shown me the power of our voices and just to tell our stories.
Part of doing the race, we were just so excited to get to the finish line and feel like we've completed something significant and have done something cool. And, you know, part of us, we thought, okay, once we get to that 8th or 9th day, we can retire. Yeah. And obviously,
and we're done.
As you can see, the movie came out years later, and it's just helped us realize the impact and the influence we can all have on the farmers and the different stakeholders and different members of our community that are going to help us reach that finish line.
So we wanted to feel complete. We wanted to feel finished. Like you get to that finish line, and then a week later, you're like, all right, what's next? So that's what we're constantly doing. And for me, this is what's next for me. This is my book, and I am about to submit the final review of it back to the publisher, and it's going to come out on February 26, 2019. So anyway, just an example of like, we wanted to feel done and finished after Ram, but there's always something more, always. Like, it's just shown me that no matter what we do, even after this, I'm going to be looking for the next thing,
So one of those next things was a podcast. Kyle called me 2 years ago and said, hey, you know, I think we can do a podcast. In fact, he was a guest on one, and he thought we could do better than them. So it was unrelated to FA, but we started the podcast, as you all know, as Katie mentioned, 2 disabled dudes podcasts came together, and our approach is to find lighthearted, fun ways of encouraging life beyond challenging circumstances. And we realize that we all have challenges. The challenges exist in life, whether it's disability, disease, financial, relationship. We all have stuff in life. And the challenge for us to enjoy life is to find ways to live beyond those challenges. And that's the whole purpose and point of the 2 Disabled Dudes podcast, and part of the reason why we're still friends.
All right, I see how this is. All right, so anyway, I hope you understood that, you know, community is the reason we're all here and what really drives us. you see Martin down there and just the worldwide collaboration. And so we wanted to get to the questions for the researchers. So Sean, I think that you have the first question, right?
I do.
All right.
So, this one goes to Martin since he's the leader of this community. Oh, first of all, I have a gift for you. I just can't get up. Can you grab that? If you just dig it out of the trash can there, that blue cap there, yeah, that's a proper place to store a gift for Martin. If you didn't know this, it's Martin's team. That's number 18. So he probably didn't appreciate the fact that we picked on him. So, as an apology, we wanted to give you a hat.
Wear it proudly.
Wear it proud.
Nice. Looks good.
I will consider forgiveness.
Well, all right. Thank you.
This is
great. Martin, one thing we want to know is, we're on this to find a cure, and we finally put a name on this disease, or we identified the gene just over 20 years ago. Do you think a cure is possible? How do you define a cure, and is it even possible in our lifetime?
Hi there, it's Kyle. We kind of left you hanging there with the end of that question, or the beginning of that question, but so as you know, at the beginning of this episode, we explained that we wanted to split our Australia experience into 2 episodes, 56A and 56B. Well, that was 56A. And 56B is the next one in the feed, and it will feature Martin's answer and some question answers with a bunch of other scientists in Melbourne. So check out that episode right now.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and please subscribe on the iTunes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our production team, Jake Tompkins and Matt LaFleur.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.